So let's start the today's class. In the last class we were at the Lord Irwin and we were discussing about the Simon Commission. We discussed about Lahore Congress session which was happened in 1929 and the president was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And I told you at this particular point that on 26th of January 1930 there was for the first time Indian tricolor was unfurled and that day was observed as the day of independence. Then next important thing was that the construction of Rashtrapati Bhavan on the Raisina Hills, which is the part of Aravali, it was completed in 1929. Then we were discussing about two important movements, these three. First is the Dandi March of 1930. This was also given the name Salt Satyagraha. This was given the name Salt Satyagraha. And along with this particular thing, we have the starting of civil disobedience movement, first roundtable conference and the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. So before I start this topic, first of all, you need to understand few facts about the Dandi March. You see, this Dandi March, which was started on 12th of March 1930 and it will end on 7th of April 1930. The main reason behind the Dandi March, which started from the Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad, was at this time in 1930, there was a rule that was implemented in the Indian provinces that monopoly over the production of salt was ended, and it was told in all those areas or on all those places where the salt was produced, that will be taxed. So now the main concern was that salt is one of the essential commodities that we consume on daily basis, and under the Essential Commodity Act it must not be taxed. So Britishers thought if we start taxing the production of salt, then they will be able to establish their own factories, and according to that they will be able to monopolize the prices of these salt according to their will and according to their wish. So in order to protest the taxing of the salt production, the Dandi March was started on 12th of March 1930. And remember one thing, this was started from Sabarmati Ashram and it was up to the Dandi is a place where first of all 78 delegates or 78 people were the important personalities who participated in Dandi March. And in this particular event, it was Aruna Asaf Ali, then Sarojini Naidu, all these people participated. And on 7th of April, when they reached the place called Dandi and they broke the salt law that they will be producing the salt and they are not going to pay any of the taxes to the British Empire in lieu of the production. So this breaking of the salt law happened on 7th of April. So if the question comes, what was the tenure or what was the time period of the Dandi March, you will say 12th of March up to 7th of April 1930, which was also given the name Salt Satyagraha. Don't forget that. And with the breaking of this salt law, there was a movement that was started that was called as the civil disobedience movement. When it comes to civil disobedience movement, there is a word called disobedience. It means the Indians were not going to follow the British rule. They were not going to participate in the British functioning. They are not going to basically use the services that were operated by the Britishers, because they were thinking that they will go for the indigenous technologies. So remember one thing, with the commencement of the Dandi March on 12th of March and which was ended on 7th of April 1930, with the breaking of the salt law, another movement parallelly started in the country under the guidelines of Mahatma Gandhi, and that was given the name Civil Disobedience Movement. And it was in the year which one? 1930. Don't forget that. And remember one thing, at the same time period, the British Parliament was in direct consultation with the Indian National Congress. They were in consultation with the Indian people, because I told you in 1927 they have sent the Simon Commission just to see whether the Indians are capable of framing their own laws, framing their own constitution or not. So in order to discuss the constitutional reform, try to understand, in order to discuss the constitutional reform, in order to allow the Indians to make their own laws, the Britishers decided to invite important political delegations from the India, and that was to take place in London. So it was given the name First Roundtable Conference, Second Roundtable Conference and Third Roundtable Conference. So there will be three table conferences that will be held in England just in order to look after the constitutional reforms of India, and in order to bring the constitutional reform effective in this country, they convened the roundtable conferences. And based on that roundtable conferences, the first conference was held in England in 1930. But remember, in the very first roundtable conference, Mahatma Gandhi will not participate in it because he kept some conditions before going into the first roundtable conferences. So in order to, because at that point of time, when the first roundtable conference was held, Mahatma Gandhi was so much in prominence in India that every decision of the Indian National Congress, every decision of the Indian masses was taken by this man, that is Mahatma Gandhi. So in order to invite Mahatma Gandhi to the roundtable conferences, there was a Gandhi-Irvin Pact of 1931. Actually, this pact was signed just before the second roundtable conference, because in the very first conference, Gandhi did not attend this because he told, I will only be able to attend this roundtable conference if certain conditions with the Indian provinces are met out. Unless until these conditions are not fulfilled, we are not going to attend the roundtable conferences. So under this Gandhi-Irvin Pact of 1931, there were few points which were discussed. That is, every Indian should be given the autonomy to produce their salt and it should not be taxed. This is the very first thing. Second, the expenditure of the revenue should be much more on the development of Indian provinces, but not on the development of the retired British officials. Third was, all the political prisoners by that time who were into the British jail, they must be freed, they must be set free. So these were some of the important, and remember one thing, the rate of collection of taxes on the land produce was also to be decreased. So these were some points that were discussed in the Gandhi-Irvin Pact of 1931. And when this Gandhi-Irvin Pact 1931 was signed between Lord Irvin and Mahatma Gandhi, then Gandhi decided to attend the second round table conference. So remember, the first conference was not attended because the conditions that were set before the British officials were not fulfilled. That is why Mahatma Gandhi refused to attend the first round table conference. But after the signing of the Gandhi-Irvin Pact in 1931, in the second round table conference, Mahatma Gandhi will participate. But remember one thing, there was a clause, all those political prisoners who were indulged in, you can say, violent activities, or we can say who were under trial for the murders of British officials, they will not be freed. And because of that, Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru, these three revolutionaries were hanged on 23rd March 1931. And you must be knowing one thing, because of the execution, because of the hanging of Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru, Mahatma Gandhi was waved the black flag all around the country, because it is believed that if Mahatma Gandhi could have tried in the Gandhi-Irvin Pact, these three revolutionaries would have been saved, because there was a clause, I told you, all the political prisoners should be freed. But when Gandhi and Irvin signed this pact, this clause was not signed that all those individuals who are also under trial for the murdering of the British official, they should also be freed. So because of this condition, you know one thing, even Lala Lajpat Rai was lathi charged by Saunders, and because of that injury when he died, then these three personalities, Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru, plotted a murder, and they killed the Saunders. They killed the Saunders. So they were under the trial of the murder of the Saunders case, and because of which these three peoples were executed in 1931. And that is why Gandhi had to face a lot of criticism. Gandhi had to face a lot of, you can say, problems within India, when the young revolutionaries, when the youth of this country simply boycotted Gandhi, and they blamed that if Gandhi could have wished, if Gandhi could have wanted, these three revolutionaries would have been saved. So this was one of the infamous incident that created a rift among the youth and the Indian National Congress, that if Gandhi is really the real revolutionary, he could have gone forward in the Gandhi-Irvin Pact and must have saved Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru. Is it clear? You see, Nagen Prasad, the only wish for the Britishers to invite Gandhi to the round table conference was that the entire India was following Gandhi. Everyone had a firm belief in Gandhi, and every Indians thought the path and the way Gandhi is following to attain the Swaraj, to attain the independence, is the perfect path, and that is why everything that was told by Gandhi to the Indian masses was acceptable to them. So Britishers thought that Gandhi is not only a personality, he is the representative of the entire Indian masses. So if he does not come to the roundtable conferences, we cannot come to any conclusion, we cannot come to any agreement. That is why they thought that Mahatma Gandhi must attend the roundtable conferences, which is also known as RTCs. Is it clear to everyone? All of you, is it clear to all? Shall I proceed? Okay. After Irvine, the next important viceroy was the Lord Wellington. He was from 1931 to 1936. During his tenure, second roundtable conference in London in 1931 and third in 1932. It means two important RTCs were conducted during the tenure of Wellington. One is the second RTC and the third RTC. And in the second and third both, Gandhi participated. Communal awards, 16th August 92 assigned seats to different religious communities. Gandhiji went on an epic fast to protest against this division. You see, what is communal awards? This is not an honor. This is not a prize. This is basically, I have already told you, in the 1909 Morley Minto reforms, a separate electorate was created for the Muslim community just in order to attract the Muslims, just in order to grant the confidence of Muslims in the British Empire. Similarly, going forward, in the 1932, the British Parliament announced that they will be allocating more seats in favor of other communities like Sikh community, Christian community. These communities were also included. And because of this, so Gandhi came to understand one thing, that the Britishers are trying to create a community divide in the Indian society. That is why he went on fast unto death just in order to protest against the communal awards. So if the question comes, when was the communal awards implemented in the country? You will say 16th of August 1932, and it was just for the purpose of allocation of seats in favor of different communities, which included communities like Sikh community, Jain community, Christian community, and it was just done in order to create a rift, in order to create a divide between the different communities of Indian society, and just to disunite the Indians in an effort to protest against the British East India Company, or we can, at that time it was not British East India Company, at that time it was the British government. So in order to divide the Indian masses, in their opinion, these communal awards were started. And remember one thing, during the tenure of Lord Wellington, all Indian Kisan Mahasabha was also formed in 1934. This is very important. All India Kisan Mahasabha, don't forget this. So guys, any query you can ask. And remember one thing, this All India Kisan Mahasabha that was founded in 1934 was started by Swami Sahajanand Saraswati. It was started by Swami Sahajanand Saraswati. He was the founder of All India Kisan Mahasabha, and he was also the first president of the All India Kisan Mahasabha. You have to only understand his name. You see, the actual date is 1936. This was the actual year of foundation, but the concept was floated in 1934. Remember this. And remember one thing, this was started or formed in the Lucknow session of Indian National Congress. And it was in April 1936. And this All India Kisan Mahasabha, which was founded in April 1936 in the Lucknow session of Indian National Congress, it was just to save the peasants from the economic exploitation. This was the first thing, and to abolish the zamindari system. It was just to abolish the zamindari system and to protect the peasants or farmer from economic exploitation in the hands of the Britishers. And there was also a very important point that all the peasants or the farmers should be given right of ownership, right of ownership, right of ownership of the land. Remember that, ठीक है ना? So in order to abolish zamindari system, to protect the farmers from economic exploitation and the right of ownership of land, these things were included into this particular event. Just don't forget this. This is very important. And some other leaders of the All India Kisan Mahasabha, some other prominent leaders of this particular Mahasabha were Anji Ranga, very famous. Then Ram Manohar Lohia, another important personalities. Acharya Narendra Dev, and very important man Jayaprakash Narayan, JP Narayan. These were the important members of the All India Kisan Mahasabha. Clear, all of you? After the Wellington came the Lord Wavell. You see, it was during the Lord Wavell tenure it is believed that Subhash Chandra Bose died in a plane crash at Formosa in 1945, which is still a mystery. He arranged the Simla conference on 25th June 1945. You don't have to forget this fact. 25th June 1945, with the failure of the Indian National Congress and Muslim League. You see, by this date, 25th June 1945, we were coming very much close to, we're coming very much, because at this time the Second World War was in progress, 1945, and Britishers believed that after the end of the Second World War, they will be leaving the Indian provinces, and because of that, they wanted to set an agreement between India and Pakistan, because Muslim League was continuously demanding that even if the India get independence, then there must be a separate state, there must be a separate land that belong to the Muslims. That is why, in order to fix a arrangement of partition, between the Indian National Congress and Muslim League, so as that which of the following provinces will be the part of Pakistan and which provinces will be the part of India. In order to finalize that, there was a, we can say, Simla conference on 25th of June 1945, and it was called by Lord Wavell. Just remember that. In the same year 1945, two atomic bombs were thrown on Japan on 6th of August and 9th of August. You might be knowing that, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And during this particular year, Congress Socialist Party, this is very important, was founded in 1932. Congress Socialist Party. Don't forget this important thing. And this Congress Socialist Party of 1932 was founded by two important revolutionaries, or we can say freedom fighter. One is the Ram Manohar Lohia, and second is Jayaprakash Narayan. And they are the same people who were the members of the All India Kisan Mahasabha. And these people separated themselves from the Indian National Congress because they were not satisfied with the ideologies of the Mahatma Gandhi. ठीक है ना? So since they were against the ideology of the Mahatma Gandhi and they wanted to have the social reform, economic reform and political reform in a socialist way. What is a socialist way? Equality to all, and there should not be any discrimination in the society based on religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. So at that point of time, a consensus was not developed among all the congressmen. So these two people, Ram Manohar Lohia and Jayaprakash Narayan, separated from the Indian National Congress, and they started a new political party or a new political organization that was given the name Congress Socialist Party. It was founded in the year 1932. And remember one thing, J.R.D. Tata became the first Indian to fly the first solo flight of India from Bombay to Karachi in 1932. This also happened during the but this is not included in the Lord Wellington plan. If we talk about this, it will be under the Lord Wellington. This will be during the Wellington. It is wrongly kept here. This will be during the tenure of Wellington. So if the question comes, he was the first Indian pilot, you will say J.R.D. Tata, and the flight was from Bombay to Karachi. And remember one thing, the most important thing was Government of India Act 1935. And this Government of India Act 1935 is the main source of Indian Constitution. 60% of our Indian Constitution comprises of the Government of India, and this was also during the tenure of Wellington. It was not during the tenure of the Webber. And last 3 points in the Wellington. Formation of Congress Socialist Party, J.R.D. Tata is the first pilot, and Government of India Act. The aim of the Government of India Act basically was that all those laws were according to the Indian society and Indian culture. It was not the British law, it was the Indian law. Now you see, what are the features of the Government of India Act 1935? This is the abolition of provincial diarchy and introduction of diarchy at center. Abolition of Indian Council and introduction of advisory body in the play. Do you know what is diarchy? Anyone who can say what is a diarchy? What is the meaning of dual government, Mr. Nagendra Prasad? You see, if the question comes ki what is a diarchy, so simply understand division of powers into two forms. There was an executive council which consisted of nominated members and the elected members. These nominations were done by the British Parliament, and over these nominated members, the entire control was of the Viceroy and the British Parliament. That is called dual authority. It means the nomination, in fact, those members who were nominated into the executive councils during the diarchy, and this was introduced in the 1919. Don't forget this. The diarchy was introduced by the Government of India Act 1919. Don't forget this. This was very important. It was told that, and remember one thing, there was one more feature of the diarchy. The subjects were divided into two parts. One was the reserved and other was the transferable. One was the reserved subject and second was given the name transferable. All those subjects which were reserved had the extreme power, or these all subjects, the reserved subjects, were under the Viceroy Executive Council, and all those laws related with the reserved subjects was framed by the which one? British Parliament, and they have the authority, or we can say they have the monopoly over the reserved subjects. So we can simply understand, you can simply understand one thing, under the diarchy system, which was introduced in the 1919 Act, there were two types of subjects. One was reserved and other was transferable, and because of this division it was called as the hierarchy. In the reserved subject we have the provisions like law and order, that is justice, police department, the entire collection of revenue, then we have irrigation facilities. These were included into the which one? You will say it was directly it was under the control of the British Empire or the British Parliament. The transferable subjects were governed by the Indian elected member. The transferable were under the control of the Indian ministries or the Indian government. So diarchy simply means two type of government in the same province. One was under the British government and other was by the Indian elected ministers. So in the same province, suppose for example, if we talk about United Province, UP of that time, United Province. So in the United Province, there were two administration. One administration was by the Britishers and other administration was by the Indian elected members. And in order to have the administration of subjects, the subjects were divided into two parts: reserved subjects and transferable subject. In the reserved subjects, which was under the control of the Viceroy Executive Council, which was under the control of the British Parliament, it means any law related to police reform, legal laws, we can say civil laws, criminal laws, collection of revenue, irrigation, all the decisions were to be taken by the British Parliament under the Viceroy Executive Council, and Viceroy enjoyed the supreme power over all these laws. In fact, the Indian members were not allowed to interfere in any of the reforms that was related to the justice, police, revenue and irrigation. And whether as transferable subjects are concerned, which was under the Indian ministries, this included local self-government, that is panchayats, local self-government. This was one of the things. Then we have the provisions like agriculture, then we have education, got it? Then we have public health, forestry, then we have fisheries. These were included under which one? So you will say under the transferable subject. So transferable subject basically included subjects like local self-government, agriculture, forestry, fisheries, education and health, and all the important subjects in which you can really dictate the provinces like justice, police, revenue, irrigation, the entire thing from which the revenue used to come, from where the maximum power can be enjoyed and you can really dominate the Indian provinces and Indian masses, that was kept under the reserve subject. So this was until 1919, but when the Government of India Act 1935 came, then at the provinces, that is at the state level, all these things were abolished and the same diarchy was introduced at the central level, at the center. From the state provinces it was abolished, but it was established at the central province. The transportation was also under the reserved subject. Transportation was also under the reserved subject. Is it clear, Nagendra Prasad? All of you, is it clear? Or any doubt? I told Naresh the transportation was under the reserved subject. So that we can say distribution of subjects into reserved and transferable was called as the diarchy system. And under the diarchy system, two forms of dual government was there. One was one subject, that is reserved subject, was under the control of British Parliament, that is the Viceroy, and the transferable subject was by the elected members of the Indian ministers. Yes, Nagendra, you can ask. There is no doubt. What was the doubt from the last session? You can simply ask me. But I will give you the time to ask. Let me finish the topic first of all. You see, then the next important thing is the Government of India Act was the Indian Council and evolution of the Indian Council and introduction of an advisory body in its place. It means for the first time, a term like Council of Ministers came into existence, which will help in administrating the provinces and the central government in place of the Indian Council. Then All India Federation was formed. This is very important. All India Federation was formed, which included British India territories and princely states. And definitely last 5 minutes I will spare for doubts. This is very important. You see, under Article 1 of the Constitution, Indian Constitution, it is written, India is a union of state with a strong center. So union of state means there should be a federation. And federation, this All India Federation included of the British India. And what does British India mean here? All those 11 provinces in which the freedom struggle was going on, and princely states were how much? 562, which I have told you earlier. So the federation basically consisted of two provinces. One was the British Indian province and the princely state province. Then we have elaborate safeguards and protective instruments for minorities. It means those group who were lesser in number, who were fewer in numbers, they must be protected. The British Parliament will have the supremacy over the Indian Federation, and there was a provision that will increase the size of legislature, extension of franchise, division of subjects into 3 lists, and retention of communal electorate. It means when diarchy was abolished, there were 3 types of subjects that were divided. One was the central list, second will be state list, and third will be called as the concurrent list. Third will be which one? Concurrent list. In the central list, the entire decision will be taken by the central province. In the state provinces, and in the concurrent list, both center as well as the state. So this is how the subjects were divided. But one thing was there, communal electorate was kept constant. It means the seats which were reserved for the communities in this country, that is in favor of the Muslim community, in favor of the Buddhist community, Sikh community, Christian community, that was kept constant. There was no change in that. And remember, Burma was separated from India. This is most important. By the Government of India Act 1935, the territory of Burma, which was the part of India, was separated from India. So this is all about the provisions of the Government of India Act 1935. Now comes the Lord Linlithgow. He was from 36 to 44. During his tenure, Subhash Chandra Bose resigned from the Congress, and formation of a new party, Forward Bloc, in 1939 took place. This is important. The Forward Bloc by Subhash Chandra Bose was founded in 1939. Then the Lahore Resolution on 23rd March 1940 of the Muslim League demanding separate state for the Muslims. It was this session that Jinnah propounded his two-nation theory. With the outbreak of the World War II on 1st September 1939. So they will ask you one question, who gave the two-nation theory which will establish two separate independent states of India and Pakistan? So you will say it was the Lahore Convention or the Lahore Resolution of 1940, Lahore Conference or Lahore Resolution of 1940 of the Indian Muslim League, IML. It was at the 1940 Lahore Conference or Lahore Resolution that Muhammad Ali Jinnah propounded two-nation theory, and at that point of time the World War II was in progress. So in the World War II, Britishers wanted that Indian National Congress should support them in the cause of war, but Congress decided not to support, but Muslim League supported the World War II in favor of the British Empire, and in return of that they promised the Muslim League, if the country gets independent, if the country is set free, then there will be two independent nations. Then there will be two independent nations, one for Pakistan, one will be Pakistan and one will be India. So there will be a separate state, there will be a separate area which will be created for the welfare of the Muslims. It was in the which session? You will say Lord Linlithgow from 1936 to 1944. Don't forget this. And during this tenure, Winston Churchill became the Prime Minister of India in 1940. When Linlithgow was the Viceroy, at that time there was a change in government and Winston Churchill became the Prime Minister of India at that point of time. This is the last period. We are going towards 1947. Subhash Chandra Bose escaped from India and formation of Indian National Army or Azad Hind Fauj in 1943 at Singapore take place. You see, Subhash Chandra Bose is known for the foundation of two important institutions. One is the Forward Bloc. This was in 1939, and second is the Azad Hind Fauj. Azad Hind Fauj. That was in 1943, and that will be at Singapore. Don't forget this. Azad Hind Fauj was founded in 1943 at Singapore, and Forward Bloc was founded in 1939 by Subhash Chandra Bose. This is the two important organizations formed by Subhash Chandra Bose. Now came the Cripps mission of 1942. Then we have Quit India movement, 8th August 1942. End of Second World War, 2nd September 1942. And Cabinet Mission Plan was sent on 16th May 1946. You see, this is the, all these three events basically marks the transfer of power. This is related to the transfer of power from British authority to Indian authority. This is basically starting from, this is the transfer of power from British authority to the Indian authority. No, he's not the first British Prime Minister which changed the term Viceroy. I told you the term of Viceroy was changed just after the revolt of 1857. Nagendra Prasad, if you remember that particular chapter, I told you earlier, after the revolt of 1857, when in 1858 a treaty was signed, then the power, the rule of the company ended in India and the rule of British Empire started. And when the rule of British Empire started in this country, in the British Indian provinces, then gradually the post of Governor General was ended and the post of Viceroy was created. So don't get confused with that particular thing. You see, this Cripps mission of 1942, this was sent by the British Parliament to the British India just for the constitutional reforms. It was sent for the which one? Constitutional reforms. But in this constitutional reforms, which was sent by the Cripps mission of 1942, there were some points, there were some provisions which was not acceptable to the Indian National Congress. And the most important point was that the Indian National Congress rejected the Muhammad Ali Jinnah demand of two-nation theory. That was the most important thing. And we can say it was the only factor. That is why the Cripps mission which was sent to India was a failure to this country. This was one of the important things. And one more thing was there under this Cripps mission, that India will be under the dominion of British Empire. This was the most important. This was the Cripps mission. It means what is the dominion of British Empire? Under the Cripps mission of 1942, which was presented to the Indian National Congress, there were two important points that led to its rejection. Try to understand what were those 2 points which did not give Cripps proposal or Cripps mission a go ahead in this country. One was the dominion of British Empire. What was the British dominance? It means laws of Indians and administration of British Parliament. It means Britishers, it was an autocratic rule. They simply told all the laws that will be implemented in the British Indian province, those laws will be made by the Indian lawmakers. It means, and the same thing we were demanding during the 1920, 1922, when we started the non-cooperation movement, when we supported the World War First. So during these two important events, we demanded for the dominion status. We wanted to have the constitutional reforms. We wanted to have the laws made in India by the Indians itself, but it was not fulfilled at that point of time. Now, when Britishers came to realize that the way agitations and the way the revolutions are increasing in Indian provinces, it is hard to rule India for a long duration. That is why they played a trump card. They told, okay, look, we are going to give you the dominion status, and this acceptance of dominion status was proposed in the Cripps Mission of 1942. And in this dominion of British Empire, it was told that the laws will be made by the Indians, but the administration will be in the hands of the British Parliament. It means they told that India will remain under the British Parliament, and maximum authority will be in the hands of the British Parliament, but you can implement your laws. So it was completely rejected. And second important thing was that two nation theory will be there. It means Indian provinces will be the nation of India will be divided into two parts, independent India and independent Pakistan. And that is why when this Cripps mission failed and Congress rejected to accept this particular proposal, the Gandhi came out with a very decisive decision that was called the Quit India Movement. And this Quit India Movement was started on 8th of August 1944 from the Govaliya tank in Bombay, which is now known as Agast Kranti Maidan. And in this particular Quit India Movement, we can say, so this Quit India Movement, which started on 8th August 1942 from the Govaliya tank in Bombay, that is Agast Kranti Maidan. Remember one thing, during this movement, Gandhi gave a slogan, do or die. Do or die was the famous slogan. It means it is every Indian with their full energy should make the effort and make Britishers drive out of India. And that is why he gave the slogan, do or die. And it was the first movement in India after, we can say, the Swadeshi movement of 1905, in which the participation from all the communities of Indian society came. Each and every individual of this country participated equally in the Quit India Movement. And it was during this movement, it was declared by Gandhi, every individual will have the free hand to decide what to do at the time of the course of its action. It means he told, even if you are required to go violent, you can go violent, because he told if the question comes of your own survival, and in that case, if you beat someone, if you kill someone, that is not called as the violence, that is called Atmaraksha, that is called as self-defense. So this is the first movement in India in which Gandhi publicly told everyone that everyone will have the free hand of its own and they will decide the things of their own. There will be no compulsion, there will be no authoritarian thing. And this is after this, when the Quit India Movement started and Second World War ended on 2nd October 1945, then just after the end of the Second World War, a cabinet mission plan was sent to India by the British Parliament on 16th May 1946. And under this cabinet mission plan, it was decided that the British Empire, or the British, we can say India, will be made free from the British subjugation at any cost by June 1948. This was a very important decision made in the cabinet mission plan of 16th May 1946. That is the which one that by June 1948 at any cost Britishers will leave India. But there was also one provision that before leaving India, there will be establishment of two independent sovereign states or two independent states, India as well as the Pakistan. And there was more, and third important thing of the cabinet mission plan was that before leaving India, Britishers will install a constitutional body in this country whose main objective will be to frame the constitution for India. So you can say formation of the constitution, division of India and Pakistan, and granting freedom to Indian province by the end of June 1945 were the three important promises that was met during the cabinet mission plan of 16th May 1946. And this cabinet mission plan was sent to India by the British Parliament just to grant or just to transfer of power from British crown to the Indian provinces. Second is creation of two sovereign states, India and Pakistan. And third is the establishment of a constituent assembly. Try to learn that constitution or establishment of a constituent assembly with the objective of framing Indian constitution and to make laws related to the Indian constitution. So based on the cabinet mission plan, the first meeting of the constituent assembly was held on 9 December 1946, and in the very first meeting, Dr. Sachidananda Sinha was elected as its first president. So remember, the first president of the Constituent Assembly, whose first meeting was held on 9th of December 1946, was Dr. Sachidananda Sinha. But on the alternate days, that is on the 11th of December 1946, when the second meeting of the Constituent Assembly was held, in place of Sachidananda Sinha, Dr. Rajendra Prasad will be declared as the permanent president of the Constituent Assembly. So remember, Sachida Nand Sinha was the first president, and on 11 December, Dr. Rajendra Prasad will be elected as the which one? Permanent president. Permanent president, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Elections to the Constituent Assembly were held and an interim government was appointed under Nehru. It means unless until the general elections in India is not held, till then there will be an interim government which was appointed under Nehru, and a cabinet was formed under the prime ministership of the Nehru. And final declaration of end of British rule in India by Clement Attlee on 20th Feb 1947. And on 20th Feb 1947, the then British Prime Minister Clement Attlee, it means if the question comes who was the Prime Minister of Britain when India was granted the independence, you will say Clement Attlee. And this declaration of the end of British rule in India was made in the British Parliament on 20th of Feb 1947. This is most important. Don't forget this. So 20th Feb 1947 was the date on which declaration was made in the British Parliament by the Prime Minister of Britain Clement Attlee that the British rule in India will come to an end. And finally we have the which one? Lord Mountbatten from 20th March, from the March to the August 1947. He was the last Viceroy of British India and the first Governor General of Free India. This is the first thing. He was the last Viceroy of British India and the first Governor General of the Free India. Then partition of India decided by the 3rd June plan or Mountbatten plan. It means India was divided into India and Pakistan based on the Mountbatten plan. India Independence Act was passed by the British Parliament on 4 July 1947, by which India became independent on 4th August 1947. This is most important. Which was the, on which date India Independence Act of 1947 was passed? You will say 4th of July 1947. This was the date on which India Independence Act was passed, and it was based on the announcement of 20th Feb 1947. You see, this is the 20th Feb 1947 when the declaration to end the British rule in India was made. Then on 4th July 1947, India Independence Act was passed, and on 15th August 1947, India became independent. And on the midnight of it, 14th August 1947, Pakistan was born. Retired in June 1948 and was succeeded by C. Rajagopalachari, the first and the last Indian Governor General of Free India. So if the question comes, he was the first and the last Indian Governor General, first and the last Indian Governor General, it will be C. Rajagopalachari, and the last Viceroy and the first Governor General of Free India, then it will be Lord Mountbatten. Guys, any question, any doubt, you can just ask me. All of you, can you please respond me very quickly? So you have to remember 3 dates. On 20th of Feb 1947, we had the announcement that the British India will be freed from the British subjugation. On 4th of July, 1947, India Independence Act was signed. On 14th August, Pakistan became independent, and on 15th August, India became independent. And last one is that in June 1948, Mountbatten retired and he was succeeded by C. Rajagopalachari. He was the first and the last Indian Governor General of Free India. Now, we are discussing about one important event, that is the Revolt of 1857. Revolt of you see, Nagendra Prasad, the post of Prime Minister, if you talk about the post of Prime Minister, it do existed during the British India, and his post was similar to the post which is right now of Chief Minister. And the first Prime Minister who was elected to this particular post was from the Madras province, and it was C. Rajagopalachari at that point of time. This is one of the important fact that you need to understand. Is it clear? Now come to the next one. Now we are coming to the revolt of 1857. Remember one thing, if the question comes, because Burma was also fighting for their own independence, so they were separated from the Indian provinces. This is based on the geographical location. Now you see, now the question is, what were the causes of the revolt of 1857? First is introduction of the policy of doctrine of lapse. Nana Sahib was refused pension as he was the adopted son of the Peshwa Bajirao II, and I told you, under the doctrine of lapse theory, if a person is not a natural heir of the prince or princess, then that particular province will directly come under the rule of the British East India Company. So remember one thing, we have the introduction of the policy of doctrine of lapse. Nana Sahib was refused pension as he was the adopted son of Balaji Peshwa Bajirao II. There was a heavy taxation, discriminatory tariff policies against Indian products, and destruction of traditional handicrafts that hit peasants, artisans and small zamindars, evictions. Then Indian soldiers were paid low salaries as compared to the British soldiers, and they could not rise above the rank of Subedar and were racially insulted. Second, they were also grieved because of the refusal of British to pay foreign service allowance Batta while fighting in remote regions such as Punjab and Sindh. Then the British social reforms like widow remarriages, abolition of sati, education for girls, Christian missionaries, these also created an unrest in the Indian society. The introduction of Enfield rifle, the cartridges of which was greased with animal fat, provided the spark, and inventions like railway and telegraph, spread of Western education, also promoted the cause. You see, so we can simply say that there were social cause, there were political cause, there were economic cause. So we have all together these three causes, social, economic and political, we can say social, political and economic causes, which really resulted in the revolt of 1857. Try to understand. If we talk about social causes, then the reforms that were started by the British officials in India in order to safeguard the rights of the women, like widow remarriage, abolition of sati, education for girls, and the allowing of Christian missionaries to enter India and to get Indian peoples converted into Christianity, this really encroached the social independence of the Indian masses, because you see, the Indian masses thought that they have their own culture, they have their own tradition, which must be protected and which must be safeguarded. Even though Britishers were doing good things in the form of widow remarriages, abolition of sati, which were evils in the society of that period. In fact, education for girls was also introduced just in order to provide gender equality. But these reforms in the social sector, instead of winning the hearts of Britishers, created a rift among the British India and rift among the British Empire. So these social reforms were taken into the wrong perspective by the Indian people. This is the one thing. Second important thing is that there was some political cause. What were the political cause? Nana Sahib was refused pension because he was the adopted son of the Peshwa Bajirao II. This was one of the, which one? Political cause. Second important thing is that Indian soldiers were paid low salaries and they were not allowed to be offered a rank above the Subedar, and they were discriminated racially based on the thoughts of black and white. So these were some of the important reasons which really led to the spark in the Indian community, and this spark resulted in the revolt of 1857. There were other social cause like other economic cause was introduction of heavy taxation, discriminatory tariff policy against Indian products, and destruction of traditional handicraft. It means the traditional economic activities like handicrafts, potteries, weaving of charkha, these things were banned, and it hit the peasants, artisans and the small zamindars as well. And if the question comes, which was the immediate cause of the rise of revolt of 1857, what was the immediate cause? Try to listen me very carefully. If the question comes, what was the immediate cause which sparked the revolt of 1857, you will say during that time Britishers introduced the Enfield rifle. Try to understand. This was the Enfield rifle, and before inserting the bullets into this Enfield rifle, that bullet's outer cover need to be removed with the help of the teeth. And it is told in these cartridges or the bullets, there was a grease that was made up of animal fat, and that was the pig fat and the cow fat. So this created a rift among the Hindus and the Muslims that their religious tinge were hurt by the British East India Company or by the British Empire. And this really resulted into the which one? You can say revolt of 1857, and you know it was Mangal Pandey from the Meerut who first of all revolted publicly against the British battalion, and the revolt was started. Evictions means when the people of the India were transported from Indian provinces to the other island countries just as a planter or as a laborer of sugarcane, tobacco, then we have called pineapple, tea, rubber, coffee. That was called as the which one? Evictions. Got it, guys? So these were some of the causes of the revolt of 1857. And remember, on 29th March 1857, a soldier named Mangal Pandey attacked and fired at his senior at the Barakpur in Bengal in 19th and 34th Native Infantry. On 10th May, there was a mutiny of sepoy at Meerut 3rd Native Cavalry. By the mid of June 1857, the revolution was spread in all the parts of the North India. So the first revolt that sparked, it was from the Barakpur in Bengal. And it was done by the important man named Mangal Pandey, who attacked and fired at his senior at the Barakpur in Bengal, and he belonged to the which one? 34th Native Infantry. The Mangal Pandey belonged to the 34th Native Infantry. And by the mid of the June 1857, try to understand, by the mid of the June of 1857, the revolution was spread in all the parts of the North India. The revolutionaries declared the Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah as their leader and gave the slogan of March to Delhi. This was the first important thing, that in order to unite all the masses, you can understand, in order to unite all the leaders of the Indian masses, in order to unite all the Indians together to fight against the British Empire, what they did is that they declared Emperor Bahadur Shah. Try to understand, they declared Emperor Bahadur Shah as the which one? So you will say Shahenshah Hindustan. But remember one thing, the revolution seemed to be successful in the beginning, but later on it was suppressed by the British due to the following reasons. First is Scindia of Gwalior, Holkar of Indore, Nizam of Hyderabad, the Raja of Jodhpur, the Nawab of Bhopal, the ruler of Patiala, Sindh and Kashmir, and the Rana of Nepal provided active support to the Britishers. Am I visible and audible to all of you? Guys, please respond me very quickly. Guys, please wait. If I am audible to you, please wait. Now it's okay, guys, I think. Now am I audible and visible to all of you? Okay. There was a technical error, so I just... Okay, so let me continue. So I'm just telling this revolt of 1857, instead of so much of emphatic start, or we can say so much of strong start from these mutiny people, this sepoys started from the Barakpur in Bengal, from the 19th and 34th Native Infantry. Then on 10th May 1857, there was a mutiny of sepoy at the Meerut, that was the 3rd Native Cavalry. They will ask you simply one thing, at the Meerut, which regiment revolted against the, or the which infantry or the which battalion revolted to dishonor the orders of the British officials of British authority, you will say 3rd Native Infantry. And by the June of 1857, so it started on the March 29th, 1857. It further it got the momentum on 10th of May, and the accelerator was on during the June of 1857. And just in order to march towards Delhi, the then emperor of the Mughal, Bahadur Shah, was basically made as the leader of the entire India, and under his leadership, this revolt was started. But what happened? The British Empire were successful in gaining the confidence of, or they were successful in getting the support from the princely states like Sindhia of Gwalior, Holkar of Indore, Nizam of Hyderabad, Raza of Jodhpur, Nawab of Bhopal, rulers of Patiala, Sindh and Kashmir, and the Rana of Nepal, which provided active support to the Britishers. And with the support from these important princely states, the Britishers were successful in suppressing the revolt of 1857. And try to understand one thing, the main factor or the main reason why this revolt was not successful was that each and every individual, each and every you can say community who were participating in the revolt of 1857, they were fighting for their own cause. It means peasants were fighting, or the farmers were fighting against the policy of taxation. Second important thing is that sepoy were fighting against the introduction of the Enfield rifles. Jamindars were fighting because for their ownership into the land parts, and the Nawabs and the Peshwas were fighting just in order to retain their position on the highest part. So this was the reason that each and every was fighting for their own cause, and there was no sense of national unity. It means there was no sense that each and every was fighting against the Britishers. Everyone were fighting for their own causes, for their own choices. And second important thing is that there was a lack of efficient leadership, because by that time Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was 82 years old, he was too old to continue as an emperor, and he was not able to unite all the individuals. And that is why the British Empire captured Bahadur Shah Zafar and deported him to Rangoon along with Rabia Durrani, who was the Maharani of that time. So we can say the lackness of efficient leadership, the military equipment of the rebels was inferior, poor coordination among all the revolutionaries, and the modern intelligent Indians also did not support the cause. It means the intelligentsia class, the literate people, the literate community of that time, like those who were the most intelligentsia class like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, then we have the people like Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar, Ravindranath Tagore. These people did not support this particular things, and that was the only reason, that was the only factor that we can say this particular we can say the Brahmins of that time, Kshatriyas of that time, they were not supportive to this particular, because I told you this revolt was a personal revolt for each and every group, each and every community. That is why this revolt was not as successful. Now you see, leaders of the revolt of 1857 from different places. From Barakpur, that is Bengal, it was Mangal Pandey. From Delhi, it was Bahadur Shah II and General Bakht Khan. From Delhi, it was again Hakim Asanullah, chief advisor to Bahadur Shah II. From Lucknow, the most important name is Begum Hazrat Mahal. Then British Qadir, Ahmedullah, advisor of the ex-Nawab of Awadh. From Kanpur, Nana Sahib, Rao Sahib, Tatia Tope, and Azimullah Khan. From Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai. From Bihar, Kumar Singh and Amar Singh. Allahabad, Banaras, Maulvi Liaquat Ali. Faizabad, Ahmedullah. Farooqabad, Tufzal Hasan Khan. Biznor, Muhammad Khan. Muradabad, Abdul Ali Khan. Bareilly, Khan Bahadur Khan. Mandsaur, Firoz Shah. Gwalior, Tatia Tope, he was also from the Kanpur. Then Assam, Kandapareshwar Singh and Manirma Datta. Orissa, Surendra Sahi and Ujjwal Sahi. Kullu is Raja Pratap Singh. Rajasthan, Jaydayal Singh and Hardayal Singh. Gorakhpur, Gajadhar Singh. And Mathura, Sevi Singh and Kadam Singh. So these are the names of those revolutionaries who participated from different places of this country just in order to support the revolt of 1857. So you have to remember few names. From Barakpur we have Mangal Pandey. Delhi, this two important things, Bakht Khan and Bahadur Shah along with Asanullah. From Farooqabad, Tafzal Hasan Khan. Then we have Bareilly, Khan Bahadur Khan. This is very important. Bareilly, Khan Bahadur Khan. Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai. Bihar, Kumar Singh and Amar Singh. Allahabad, Maulvi Liaquat Ali. This has been asked several times. Allahabad. So you have to learn this table which is provided over here. Got it, guys? Now, who were those Britishers officials who were successful in suppressing the revolt of 1857 in which of the regions? So you have to remember this as well. The revolt of 1857 was suppressed by which British officials at which place? So if it comes to Delhi, you will see in Delhi, the revolt of 1857 was suppressed by John Nicholson and Hudson. They were the two British officials, John Nicholson and Hudson, who suppressed the revolt of 1857 at Delhi. At Kanpur, it was Campbell and Havelock. Kanpur, Campbell and Havelock. Lucknow, Havelock, Outram, James Neal, and Campbell. So we can say Campbell and Havelock in Kanpur, and this Campbell and Havelock were also in Lucknow along with the James Neal and Outram. These were the British officials. Havelock, Campbell, Outram and James Neal. That is in Lucknow. In Delhi it was the John Nicholson and Hudson. Nicholson and Hudson in Delhi, Campbell and Havelock in Kanpur, Campbell, Havelock, Outram and Neal in Lucknow. Hugh Rose, most important, Jhansi, who was successful in defeating this Rani Jhansi, Lakshmi Bai, and Banaras, James Neal. The revolt was completely suppressed by the end of 1858. Fate of the leaders. Bahadur Shah II, that was Bahadur Shah Jafar, he was deported to Rangin, where he died in 1862. His sons were shot dead. Nana Sahib and Begum Hazrat Mahal, who were Nana Sahib was from the, you see, Kanpur. Nana Sahib was from Kanpur and Begum Hazrat from Lucknow. So Nana Sahib and Begum Hazrat Mahal, they escaped to Nepal. Rani Jhansi died in the battlefield. Tatia Chope, Mangal Pandey and others were captured and executed in 1859. So this was the fate of all those leaders who participated in the revolt of 1857. Don't forget this. Bahadur Shah II deported to Rangoon, where he died in 1862, and it was the end of the Mughal emperorship in India. So we can say, when did the Mughal emperorship ended in India? You will see in 1862 with the death of Bahadur Shah II. This rule came to an end. What was the impact of the revolt? The revolt was mainly feudal in character, carrying with it some nationalist elements. The control of Indian administration was passed on to the British Crown by the Government of India Act 1858, and the army was carefully reorganized to prevent the recurrence of such an event. I told you earlier as well that this revolt was feudal. What is feudal? It was confined to a certain geographical region. It was confined to a certain geographical region. Why? Due to lack of, we can say, effective leadership. So they were, because of the lack of effective leadership, all these revolutionaries were not organized, and there was not a single cause of revolt, and there was not a common cause of revolt. Since it would have been a common cause of revolt, since each and every individuals would have participated to revolt against the British officials in a synchronized manner, in a common manner, then it could have been a bigger impact on the Britishers. But I told you it was the Gwalior, Sindhia, Holkar, Nepal, then we have Bhopal. All these supported the British officials, and they were successful in suppressing the revolt. And remember one thing, just after the end of the revolt of 1857, a Government of India Act 1858 was passed. Government of India Act, and this Act of Government of India 1858 passed the Indian administration. You see, the entire control of the Indian administration was passed on to the British Crown by the Government of India Act. It means the power of, we can say, the rule of company rule ended, and rule of crown started. So we can say power was shifted from company to crown. Now this is the important sessions of the Indian National Congress that we are going to discuss here. You see, this is the list, this is the table that I have provided you people for the sessions of the Indian National Congress. The first session was 1885, that was held at Bombay, and its president was W.C. Banerjee, and it was attended by 72 delegates. This is him, and it was founded at Gokul Das Tejpal Sanskrit College. Gokul Das Tejpal, this was the venue, or we can say this was the place where the Indian National Congress was founded in 1885 by W, and its first president this was founded by A.O. Hume, Allen Octavian Hume. This was founded by, and it is called, the Congress was the child of Dufferin. It was the Dufferin brain who resulted in the formation of the Indian National Congress with the support of the Allen Octavian Hume, but the first president was W.C. Banerjee. Second session was Calcutta, and Dadabhai Naoroji was the president. Third was Madras, Badruddin Tayyabji, the first Muslim president. This is important, Badruddin Tayyabji. Then Allahabad, George Yule, the first English president. Don't forget these two. Then 1889, William Wedderburn. He was also the biographer of Allen Octavian Hume. He was also the biographer of A.O. Hume, Allen Octavian Hume. Then we have Firoz Shah Mehta, 1890. Then we have 1895, Pune S.N. Banerjee, 1896, Rahmatullah Sayani. The national song Bande Mataram was sung for the first time. This is important, 1896. This is important session at Calcutta. And who was the president? You will say Rahmatullah Sayani. Don't forget, important. I'm only marking the important sessions. Then 1905, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, who was the political guru of Mahatma Gandhi. 1907, Suraj Das Bihari Ghosh. I told you, during his tenure, the INC got split into two parts, moderates led by Gokhale and the other Congress leader, extremists led by Tilak. So it was Gokhale and second it was Tilak. Gokhale was the follower of moderate path and Tilak extremist. Then 1909, Lahore, Madan Mohan Malviya. 1911, when the capital was shifted, Pandit Vishwanarayan Das, PV Narayan, the national anthem Jan Gan Man was sung for the first time. This is also important. Pandit Bishan Narayan Das, BN Das. This is an important session. You see, Rahmatullah Sayani, national song, 1896, Rahmatullah Sayani and Pandit Bishan Narayan, BN Das, 1911. Then 1916, A.C. Mazumdar, joint session with Muslim League in which the historic Lucknow Pact was signed, reunion of the Congress. It means the moderates and the extremists which parted their ways in 1907, they joined their hands. 1917, Calcutta session, it was Annie Besant, the first women president of Congress. First women president of the Indian National Congress was Annie Besant in the Calcutta session of Congress in 1917. Then we have 1919, Motilal Nehru, Amritsar. 1920, Lala Lajpat Rai, 21, C.R. Das, 23, Abdul Kalam Azad, youngest president. This is also important. 1923, youngest president was Abdul Kalam Azad. 1924, Belgaum session, Mahatma Gandhi. Remember one thing, only session of INC which was headed by Mahatma Gandhi. Then we have 1925, after the gap of 8 years, the second women president will be after the gap of 8 years, Kanpur. First session to be by the Indian lady. First Indian women president of the INC will be Sarojini Naidu and she will be in 1925. Then 1928, Calcutta session, Motilal Nehru, first All India Youth Congress formed. This is very important. Calcutta, 1928. This is also important. All India Youth Congress was formed. Then 1929, Lahore session, J.R. Nehru. The decision to launch a civil disobedience movement to achieve complete independence and to observe 26 January as Independence Day was taken, and Nehru became the president for the first time in 1929. This is also important. 1931, Karachi, Vallabhbhai Patel. This may be asked this time because you know the BJP government is very much supporting the Vallabhbhai Patel. Resolution on fundamental rights and national economic program was passed. This is very important. The resolution on fundamental rights and the national economic program was passed. Gandhi-Irvin Pact was endorsed by the Congress in the session, and Gandhi was nominated to represent Congress in the second round general conference. And this decision was taken in the 1931 Karachi session that were presided over by Vallabhbhai Patel, where for the first time the discussion on the fundamental rights and the national economic program was passed. And it was also decided that the Gandhi will represent the Indian National Congress in the second round general conference. 1932 Delhi session was banned. And in this, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya was elected. You see, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya was also in 1909. So 1909 and 1932. Mrs. Nelly Sen Gupta presided. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya was again elected president. Nelly Sen Gupta, the third. Nelly Sen Gupta, the third women president. Nelly Sen Gupta. So remember one code. In 1925, first women president. 1917, I'm so sorry. 1917, first women president, 1925, second women president, and 1933, third women president. So it's the gap of how many years? 8 years. Nelly Sen Gupta. Then we have Rajendra Prasad in 1934, Lucknow and Fazpur, 36, 37, both by Nehru. And the Fazpur session of 1937 was the first session that was held in village. First session in a village was in Fazpur, 1937. That was presided by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Then in 1938, Haripura session, which was headed by Subhash Chandra Bose, a national planning committee was set up under Jawaharlal Nehru. 1939, Tirupuri session, Subhash Chandra Bose. Subhash Chandra Bose was re-elected but had to resign due to protest by Gandhiji, as Gandhiji supported Dr. Pattabhi Sitramaiah and Rajendra Prasad was appointed in his place. So there was you can say a dispute in 1939 session of Tripuri. First is Haripura and second is the Tripuri session. First is the Haripuri and second is the Tripuri session. Then 1940 it was Ramgarh, Abul Kalam Azad. 1946 Meerut, Acharya J.B. Kriplani, and 1948 again Jaipur, Pattabhi Sitramaiah. First session after independence was held at Jaipur. This is important. First session after independence was held at Jaipur, and Pattabhi Sitramaiah was the president. Remember that. So that's all, dear. It's all for today's session.